college bone. What the science, baby?
What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Subscribe or die trying. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit different. So, what happens sometimes on the weekends, me and my lady have these kind of pillow talk conversations about relationships. So, right now, we laying in the bed and we having this pillow talk. We ain't gonna reenact it, but we're gonna have the part of the conversation we had this morning about relationships. So, let's see. Say hello, just so we can be heard.
Hello.
Okay. So, where should we start? Like, you get up in the morning and it's like, okay, you watch a video or I watch a video, and a topic will come up. So, I think today was like reciprocity.
Yes.
So, men, women get together and we have a different perspective on reciprocity.
Right.
So one of the things was, if I'm not mistaken, uh, I was saying that ladies think their that we have different gender roles, but trying to be modern and traditional and losing reciprocity in the middle of it. Am I in the ballpark? Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
So what happened was, how I can't say how men and women are gonna get along to that. My perspective was,
Babe, remember I was saying, I'm sorry, I was
oh,
saying specifically, like, I always talk about honesty. Men being completely, that's what we were talking about also, men being honest with women. And it funneled into reciprocity.
gotcha. So it was about the man. It was started about the manosphere and honesty.
Yes.
So the idea that there are women who some of you fellas don't realize, like, these conversations that has been happening, you don't realize the impact of it in real life, because now it's it's in the workforce to the point where people are having these conversations on their job.
Right. So, can I say something, babe?
Yeah.
So, when we were talking this morning, and by the way, he put me on the spot to do this, by the way. I was not expecting this. Is like an impromptu thing. So,
I did.
so basically, I always bring up the 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 thing I'm even curious about in relationships, because relationships are very important. Our relationship is important to me, and I think overall we have a very honest, transparent relationship. So I said, why aren't I don't think men are completely and really honest with women, because they don't, at the end of the day, I'm not saying all men, but some men don't want to deal with the backlash of being honest. But it's very, very important. And I think what happens is um, when you don't want to deal with the backlash of how we may react to your truth, then you fall back and you just you check out gradually, and then we're trying to figure out what's going on, and it gets to the point where you're checked out to the point where you just want to, you're like, I'm done. Versus if you gave us that honesty, you give us an opportunity. If you were saying, hey, I'm having this issue in the relationship, and what's going on, and if you come to us, and we may not we may get emotional and do those things that you may not like, but at least you give us an opportunity to make an informed decision by action to improve it, But if we don't know how to improve, if you don't tell us, we don't know how to improve certain things.
Yeah, I think that was the point of the conversation. I was like, well, com- communication is like 80 to 90% nonverbal, and we do communicate, but a lot of ladies don't hear us. We could say things, we could do things, but just because there are a lot of there are a lot of ladies who don't listen to our words or our cues, to the point that it becomes a moot point where it's irrelevant.
Your cues.
My cues.
What do you mean your cues? Like, because I'm like literally, I'm trying to take it from like talk how we were talking this morning without even. I'm trying to.
just talk. It's okay.
um. So it's what do you mean as far as what you? So you said cues and hints. Why can't you just be for? Why can't men just be forthcoming? So we.
Because that was the part we was talking about, and I was like, we are forthcoming, but what you believe how we should communicate theoretically is not how we communicate practically.
Mm,
Because if we say something, ladies needed to be in a perfect way at a perfect time.
okay, I
That
remember you telling. Yeah.
that's what that was. It was we don't know how to talk to you in a perfect way at a perfect time for you to hear the honesty you want. We can only control the honesty that we give you. We can't control your hearing of it or your perception of it.
Right.
So that was I remember that part. Like that was a trip, you know. So because one of the other things, one of the reasons I'm talking about this, what I wanted to talk about this is because sometimes people get confused with men and women are different, but thinking that we are the same in the way we act. So I'm not gonna be a man at one moment and then be a female the next moment, and I'm not gonna expect a woman to be masculine one moment and feminine the next.
Mm,
So I'm gonna just stay in my lane, and when we're in a, when we're in a relationship, that's my lane. I'm not gonna get out of that just for the sake of modern day gender roles. You know, there are things that I will do, and there are things I won't do, and there are things I won't expect. Um, I won't expect somebody else to do. Like if I can be like we clown about this, if I can be handy with my hands, I can be a little handyman to help out. So, but I'm not gonna expect you as a woman to be a handyman.
right.
You know what I'm saying? So, and that's part of the conversation we were talking about, where it was like, I remember saying about the part where because there are more black men and black women raised by their moms, it's like men become 75% of the relationship if he got his stuff together. Because I remember I was like, they raised
Mm-hmm.
the girls to not need a man, but they raised the boys to be the type of man that helps the woman who doesn't need a man.
Right. But you remember you brought up something that was really interesting. You said that men are conditioned to give when they're boys, like Valentine's Day and all these things, and it evolves into what? Remember you were saying, and you felt like doing most of the work.
Yeah, like we're conditioned to be givers. Girls are conditioned to be receivers. So we're accustomed to giving. Like when you try to change gender roles, women can't deal with the giving part because they're not socialized to give. You don't see mom, you don't see parents, fathers or mothers socializing their daughters to give. What do they give the boys when they're young for Valentine's Day? What do they give the boys for Christmas?
Mhm.
Or what is the thing that they give the boys with their birthdays? You know, usually the family does that.
Right.
Family send you cards and this, that, and the third, but not necessarily who you're dating. You know,
So you're saying like it evolves into men more so giving and not and that's where it turns into men, it's not reciprocal.
right? And that's what we look at differently because it's a breath of fresh air when you give to us. Like we're caught off guard by that.
Right. But that's the thing, and that goes back to communicating. I always go back to the
Yeah.
communicating part. If you're not getting what you want out of a relationship, why can't you just be blunt about it and communicate the way you communicate about it? Because if it's in love, it's in love. It, sometimes the delivery may be a little harsh out of frustration, but I think we want to hear those things. I don't think that some men think that we're prepared or we can for somehow some way we can't take it. We may get emotional and cry, we may react, but I'm just saying it's it's not a two-way street in communication because I go back to not you're not wanting to deal. I'm not saying you per se, but you're not wanting to deal with the backlash of what's going to come with that, whatever that is. Like,
Well, usually the backlash, like what guys they can't handle our bluntness.
I think women can handle the bluntness. That's what I've been saying. Women, it's our feelings may get hurt, no doubt. But I think we need more of those conversations, and we're not having those conversations, and that's a problem. Like I always go back to this, babe, and I say this: the weight situation.
Mhm.
Like we were joking about, I gained just a couple pounds, and I'm like in the gym right now, working it out. But it's not extreme. But I feel like I said, babe, if I get to a point where it's like I'm gaining some weight, I want you to tell me. I've told you
Yeah,
that. Like I would like, baby, like let's get in the gym. I could really. I'm like, babe, I'm gaining some weight. You're like, yeah, we need to. Yeah, let's talk about that. Tell me if I'm gaining weight. Tell me if I'm falling off or I'm doing certain things that I didn't do in the past that I did do in the past that I'm currently not doing. I want to know those things.
but do you think there's a difference between having a conversation and handling a conversation?
What do you mean as far as
Like
handling?
we think we can have the conversation with women.
Hmm.
We don't think women can handle the conversation
And
with
that's
women.
and that's the problem. Don't worry about whether or not we can't handle it. You don't really, it sounds cliche, but you don't know unless you try.
But what if okay, we're not speaking like our thought patterns about it isn't speaking from a hypothetical or theoretical. We're speaking from
Factual.
our own experiences and the other guys in our life experience. It's like, well, you know, this is how if the best way to communicate to ladies is normally if I could figure out if I could figure out how to lie to you truthfully, it'll
Really?
work.
How do you lie to someone truthfully?
Like the person we was talking about who was lying all the time. You took the lie and you believed the lie because the truth was he knew the lie would work.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So like I think one of the communication issue sometimes is I don't know how to lie to you to get you to do that. It's the well, I'm about to be trifling with this. It's the old cliche. Let me just put the tip in conversation.
Oh my
Like I
gosh.
could I could lie to you this far, And that's not, I gotta make it there. So if the weight is the issue, if the attitude is the issue, what lie can I tell you that'll make you go, you know what? Ah, and sometimes that's our issue.
The I just don't feel if you're choosing to be in a relationship with someone, it's a two-way street. Hopefully you guys can grow together, and I think you're selling yourself short if you can't just be honest with the person. I keep going back to women may not be able to handle the truth, and that may be so from your experience. The way we react shows we can't handle it, but at least you're telling us, because if you don't communicate it, then you're not going to be happy if
You,
we keep doing the same thing over and over again. And I think part of the problem too is some men think we ought to know certain things,
mhm.
and we don't. I mean, sometimes we don't know, depending on, I mean, you think at a certain age we should know things, but if we're doing the same thing over and over again in relationships and we're getting away with it and nobody's corrected because they don't want to get us to get emotional or upset and having fear of dealing with the backlash, that's a problem.
Well, you remember? Okay, you remember that a point we were talking about, not just that, but the idea that, um, oh man, that because these things are a problem, I can tell you something, but you might not, and you may take it, you may not take it, but you may not fix that problem with me. You might fix it with somebody else. So a lot of these relationships, you want the communication, you want the honesty. If you get the communication, you get the honesty. That still may be the end of the relationship, but you might work on it with somebody else because you can't. It's not a. It's a. You didn't think it was such a big problem.
Right. It doesn't have to be the end of the relationship if it's dealt with, like, almost. You have to, of course, watch and make sure that that's the situation. Like, it's not um, a season or like a couple. It's not something that's temporary. If it goes on and you just have to make sure that basically the behavior of the person that's not doing what they should be doing in the relationship is not like a temporary thing versus long term. If you see that it's long term, then have a conversation at that point and try, and versus having the conversation at the end with the person where you guys are both out the door and then they have to correct it and do better with somebody else. Is that
That
what you're saying?
yeah, that because I got to remember some of the things we talked about this morning. Um, that's when I was talking about socialization. I was like, we're socialized to love y'all even when we don't like y'all,
That was
and
good.
like
Yeah.
y'all when we don't love y'all.
Right.
So because of that, we're still cognizant of how to deal with you because we've been raised to. I'm still going to do my role in this relationship,
Hmm.
even if I don't like you. That's what we was clowning about. I was like, a man and a woman get together, he's still gonna pay the mortgage, you know, and pay the bills, even if he don't. This month wasn't a good month with my wife, but I'm still paying the bills because that's my job. But I don't like you. I just don't like you. But the idea of the ladies aren't socialized to to still do their job when they don't like us.
Right, like checking out and saying if we, because I'm trying to remember that, how it all, we were talking about the young lady. I was listening to something and she said that basically she would do what she needed to do. She would handle her business as a partner in the relationship if the man handled his business, but what does that mean in her terms? Like if he's not meeting the mark, she's not going to do what she needs to do. Remember I was telling you
Yeah,
about that?
and that's how we got into that
Right.
conversation. because I was like, well, it doesn't work both ways. Like if we do that, we're doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so part of this idea, I think, sometimes is
So you're saying it's not conditional for you guys, but it's conditional for us?
right. Because I was like, we don't look at it as conditional with us because you might forget that we're still doing our job because you're asking for something more. You get them? So we had to talk about the provider, protector, provider. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's still gonna be that, but he's not gonna go. You know what? Mm, oh, you was talking crazy last week. I tell you what. Watch me not pay this light bill. You know, yeah, since I'm a protector and a provider, but we gonna be a lightless. It will be no electricity in this household until you act right. You know, and now you got a gas stove. You can still cook, but but you're not gonna have no lights. That would come off as you be looking for somebody new.
Right.
You know, I'm the man in this relationship, but if you get on my nerves, I promise we getting evicted. I promise we getting evicted. Because I don't have to be like this all day long. So that's part of the issue. But and I hate to do this because I think this is where we talked about something that was interesting. You said something about having the submission part
Mm-hmm.
and having to look across the scope of cultures.
Uh, yeah, with the so in the convo, you mean like, well, with the what they were saying about uh, women. Well, so the conversation about the gentleman saying that he finds that non-black women are more or submissive, meaning they cooperate more than black women.
Hmm.
Is that what you're saying?
Hmm.
And that's what he was saying. So then the women were basically disagreeing with that. So submission to you in what way?
You was like in the beginning you thought sisters were more submissive, was submissive as everybody else, and then being around everybody else, you thought,
Yes. So oh, you mean oh, you mean for me
yeah,
personally? Okay, I'm sorry, because okay, I apologize. So what I was telling him was, um, I thought as far as women, us as black women, I felt that women overall were pretty submissive. I mean, I've had experiences where women have not been black women, but overall, what I've been surrounded around, black women have been submissive. What I mean by that, and I mean submissive, cooperating um, to the mission. Does that make sense? Like to whatever your mission is in the
hmm
relationship. So what I was telling him was, as far as the circle of friends that I have a very diverse group of friends. And what I find is with Latina, Black, Latina, white, Hispanic, the I would say more acquaintances, but I consider them to be cool women that I know. What I find in my experience, and actually I had that epiphany when I was talking to him, that they are more submissive than we are, regardless of the situations. There's less contingencies in the relationship.
and what we wound up talking about because of that was how does that affect communication uh,
With
with each other.
if it's open and it's like more cooperating in the relationship, it makes the relationship stronger.
But that's when I remember being I ain't gonna say petty,
Hmm.
but I was like, that one of our issues is that because it comes across that just being in a relationship is the work itself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that becomes the issue. If I'm with you and you believe that you're with me and that's all you got to do.
Okay. Yeah. So you were saying from your experience, or just other people that you know, just showing up as
Right.
the woman in the relationship is enough because you have me,
Right.
and that shouldn't be the case. But then it goes back to, remember I was telling you, in the relationship, I feel that women come out of the gate in a relationship stating what their needs, their preferences, their standards, what they are. They're very um for the most part, it depends on what type of woman you're dealing with. I mean, if they know what their standards and preferences are, they'll tell you what those things are. But in the same way, do men do that? Because I do men come
That's
out and say, like, this is what I want? Because
that's
I think men should be able to do that, but do they do that?
and that's when I was clowning about it. I was like, we'll state our preferences probably in the bedroom,
Hmm.
but not necessarily in a relationship because I don't think we think we're going to get
See,
anything.
that's what I'm saying.
You
That's
know.
what the problem is, babe. We go back to I keep going back to communicating, because you'll have I think you can, if you just have an open, honest relationship, the person, I mean, communication, as you're vetting a person in the at the beginning, you can weed out of a lot of things. You don't have to go through the stuff during the relationship. It's okay. So let me just say this. So I always say the stages of you date, you're dating somebody, and then as you're dating somebody, you're getting to know those things, and then you become exclusive, and then after that you're in a relationship. I may look at exclusive and relationship are two different things to me.
Mhm.
So during the dating process, you're getting to know, like, what the man is saying, these are my standards and preferences. You don't have to come out and say it like that, but you're just like, just as women do. If they ask a question, that's your opportunity to state your case as well.
Okay, so oh Lord. Okay, so
Just
what
saying.
happens when I'm not trying to vet you until after I get some because I'm lonely?
Oh, because you don't want to vet, you don't want to scare the woman away because you want sex.
Yeah, I don't want to look. Let me vet you
Do you want a
after.
relationship?
Let
I'm
me
not.
figure that out after.
Mm, so you're playing games.
You're trying to put me on the spot, and that's coming off as a game, and it probably is. But let me see let me see let me answer this how women do it. See see the women do it too. So what happens is, what if you have a group of people who are single,
Hmm.
who are lonely but don't want to admit they're lonely, and who haven't had that in a while, and they trying to figure out the best way to not mess up their bedroom so they can have enough common sense to say, "Who? Okay, I got what I wanted right there. Now, do I like you?"
Unfortunately, that does happen. That happens. I can't even.
So, so how you gonna have a like? How can you have a? How can we go get to? Because the dating and the vetting. What if I don't know? Like, just in general, what if I don't know I want a relationship, but I know I want somebody tonight?
Then there's no need to even talk about standards and preferences. Then there's no need for it. If you've had a long drought and you're attracted to a person and that's what you want, it's
That's what you okay. You remember the part we was having the conversation? I was like, people, there's emptiness.
right.
Like people are we're dating, but there's emptiness.
Hmm.
I know I want something, but I want you in my bed first. And then when we're done, am I empty? So if I'm empty, if it feels empty when we're done, I want you to leave.
Wow.
We go out on a date, and maybe I need um
You said a conversation,
yeah,
talk to someone.
conversation. I need to talk to somebody. And after the conversation is over, do I still want to be around you? But if I'm empty, if it still feels empty after I vented and got everything out, then I don't want you around. Like, so it becomes, this is the modern day dating cycle. I'm just testing everybody out for the mood that I'm in. Sexual mood, test out, we testing. Did you get an A? Did you get an F? This is a pass fail. This is all pass fail.
Yeah, but I just think all that's rooted in fear and true intimacy of a person wanting to really get to know somebody. Like, why are we doing all this?
Because me being me hasn't worked with anybody.
Try.
That's what I'm saying. We did try. Like, what if me being me doesn't work with people?
Then that's like, I just don't, I can't, I hear what you're saying, but that just doesn't, being you doesn't really work with a person. Then you're in the wrong place and you just have to keep working and find. I mean, it's like you'll eventually find that person. It may not be in your own time. So in the meantime, you're just going to be out there running amok.
If I'm looking for
Just
the one,
right. If you're looking for the one,
but I keep running into the Saturday. So it's like, you my one day.
hmm
So I want to find the one, but you're definitely my Saturday day. Sunday, okay, I'm gonna go to church. I got Jesus in my life. That's God's day. Okay, that's God's day. So I don't need you there for that. Monday, who's my one for Monday? Can I have somebody that loves me on a Monday, so when I come home, I ain't got to cook or nothing. They
wait.
looking out for me.
I know I'm going off in it because
Mm.
I'm thinking about something because we had a really good conversation. Remember you said something about Frankenstein, and I'm like,
Oh,
that was really good. Different pieces of a person trying to.
okay. So thank you, thank you. So part of what I was talking about was, I was like, ladies, but we just gonna say in general, you get in these relationships, and because they're empty, you piecing together a person like Frankenstein. So the person that had the good conversation, you're gonna take a piece of them. Then the person that has a good sex, that's the piece you're gonna take to build the person in. The person who has the lifestyle, you're gonna take that person. And what you're basically doing is building a person. What I was saying, what women were doing was, they're building a Frankenstein man, and what men would do was, we just have a different woman for those occasions. We're not trying to make. Uh, we know all these multiple women are not. She's the woman for sex. She's the woman for fun. She's the woman for food. She's the woman for companionship. We get all that. So that's where we're going. But we're not gonna date one of them and say, you need to act more like her. Like, not, we're not gonna say that, but we're not even gonna, in our mind, we're not gonna knock her down because, uh, if I could only get you to do the things Cheryl do, and if you could talk like Angela, you'll be the one. You will be the one. But it's like, for guys, it's like, we're ladies are trying to Frankenstein a man, and it's like, no. If you left this guy or didn't want to be with this guy, the next man you meet, you cannot take. You know, I need to put James's lifestyle and Henry's sex in this brand new man I just met, and now you're not dating him. You don't know him
Right.
because he's Frankenstein off top, and then you'll figure out his qualities probably when you leave him, like his patience. So now everybody you meet coming up next, you're viewing them with all the good qualities of your exes instead of dealing with the person that you're dealing with right in front of you. I'm sorry, babe. I'm
It's
sorry.
okay.
Uh-oh.
What?
No, what I'm trying to do is hit the little chat button. Um, but the reason okay, these conversations happen in the morning, and I can't
Or
even
they
know
happen on
why.
Sundays too. They always happen on Sundays in the morning.
Before the game, because I ain't gonna listen before. I ain't gonna listen to that. But I think a lot of this stuff winds up happening because we talk about relationships more, or people watch and listen to relationship talk more than they want to admit.
Mm.
And men and women want to have conversations with each other. But the problem usually is you can't, just in my opinion, it's hard for you to hear honesty if it ain't what you want to hear.
That could be true, but we need to hear it.
Thus, well, how about this? Because using, you know, Godfather, Kevin, using him as a reference,
Hmm.
when he has all these shows and ladies come up on the shows, do women need to hear themselves through other women to hear how they sound when they talk to men?
No, they need to hear it through men. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying if we have about our communication, if I'm communicating with you,
Hmm.
I'm telling you something,
Right.
you're telling me back something, but you don't hear yourself
Hmm. Okay.
until you hear another woman say what you've been
Oh, and
saying.
then I'm saying, oh, that doesn't make sense, but that's actually me thinking that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like part of the communication is you don't know how you sound until you hear somebody saying the same thing you're saying, and it's like, does that actually fit the situation? And that's what, like, even with some of us, like, we might say things. It's like, well, as a man, da 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 da. It's like, yeah, I get you what you saying, but that's not going to work in that situation because you can't just uh I'm a man my way through when somebody else, when you're dealing with another human being who's looking for you to be something,
Hmm.
for them.
Hmm.
So,
But going back to what you were saying about Kevin and the honesty, a lot of women in there may not like what he has to say, but they're taking heed to what he has to say. I mean, even at work and different conversations, people are now starting to have this conversation, and women, they're receptive to it. So some women, they just really don't. I mean, I know it sounds weird, and it's not like uh, I'm speaking for all women, and I'm not saying that women aren't taking responsibility for what they've done, but some truly don't know. You know why they don't know? Because y'all are not telling us.
cause we,
Because y'all are not telling us, and we're doing the same thing over and over again. I think at the end of the day, women truly want to please men. We do. At the end of the day, we that's what we want. But the thing is, if you want more of a, like, I get that as far as traditional. I mean, I think that a man would want his back rubbed, and he would want us to do certain things for him, cook and do. I know it sounds like, I mean, I don't think anything is wrong with that personally. I don't. But if you want certain things from us and we're not meeting your needs, we may meet your needs in bed physically, and we may look a certain way. But if we're not meeting your needs in other ways, let us know. And I keep going back to, yes, you could say something to me, and I think I may be meeting the mark in a certain area. But if I'm not, and you may say, babe, I'm not saying that, oh, I can, if you tell me, I mean, I may be like, oh, my feelings are hurt, but I'm glad you told me, because I have an opportunity to correct it, or let's talk about it. Maybe this is why I've been doing what I'm doing. You're like, oh, but you don't know unless we have the conversation. So I'm sitting here thinking that we're okay. and you're not saying anything and you're unhappy, and it gets worse, progressively worse and worse and worse, because you didn't say anything to us in fear of how we're going to react and we can't take it. I think that's, I don't think that's cool at all.
Okay. Yeah, I get it. I think though what you said has an interesting twist in practical application.
Hmm.
Women want to please the man that they want, not necessarily the man that they're with or the man that they need.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you're willing to please the man that you want, but the man that you may be with might not be the man that you want. So you're not
Hmm.
willing. So now, if that's like, now I got to go an extra mile with him because I don't want him. So what happens is with guys, okay, if you if you so if I was the man, if we're together and I'm the man that you want, and I have a conversation with you and talk to you about somebody, not somebody, but something that is about our relationship, and if you don't fix it, I'm gonna assume I'm not the man that you want.
Correct.
So since I'm not the man that you want,
It-
I'm gonna figure out how to find a woman that wants me.
exactly. And that's what I'm saying. So when you have that conversation with a woman and you see something's off, like, does she really want to be in this relationship? Or, something is not the same. And you say, hey, I see A, B, C, and D. Let's have this conversation. Or this needs to be, we need to correct some things, or we need to get an understanding, because if these things don't change, then it won't be good for our relationship. At that point, you're giving her, you're talking to her, and at that point she can make an informed decision based on what your needs are. If at that point, if she doesn't change, if she decides not to change, because in a relationship, if you love somebody enough, you're going to try to correct certain behavior. If you can't go all the way, you'll explain to them why you're not able to do what you need to do, but you're going to try to make strides to make a change. If you don't, then at that point, as the man in the relationship, there's your answer. Then you're free to leave, because she's not making those changes.
You know what? That's when we had that part of the conversation I was clowning about. You might be free in my mind. I'm free to leave.
Hmm.
In your mind, you don't know what's going on.
Yes, yes, I do. I know what's going on, because you told me where you were unhappy, and I didn't change.
Right.
So you can go,
And
whether I disagree with it or not.
but that was the point when I was like, that's what happens because so many ladies think they're above the men, and she's doing him a favor by being with him. So
Mhm.
even if I tell you you're not changing because I'm still doing you a favor by being with you. So how dare you try to leave me?
Mhm.
Like, okay, I ain't nothing no good for what I'm about to say. In a relationship, in our relationships in our community, it comes off as if the woman is David Ruffin and the man is the rest of the Temptations. And she's like, look, ain't nobody coming to see you, Otis. So yes, I told you. You remember that, David? You can't be hogging the mic. Ain't nobody coming to see you, Otis. I ain't gonna do. I'm gonna do what I've been doing. You gonna kick me out the Temptations? I'm the Temptation. So that becomes the issue. Like even if we communicate, you're like, look, I could go solo. Like I don't need this.
Right. So what's the problem at that point when you get your answer?
But well, the problem with that point is,
It doesn't. At this point, I know it
how
sounds
many
cold.
solo artists want to be part of a group? That's where we go wrong. When the ego is that bad, where you like, listen, how can I say this? Remember we went to that concert and Drew Hill was performing,
Mhm.
and we was trying to figure out who the other two people was. It was like, wait, and then they came on. It was Player. It was the old. It was the R&B group Player, and it was like, dang, they done ran off the other member. And now because Drew Hill went from 4 people to 3 people till they replaced the person and the other 2 left. So it was only Cisco and Nokia. Now it's
Yeah.
Cisco, Nokia, and Player. So now you got 4 people back. And it was like, wait a minute. If I feel like, look, this is my group. This is my group. You think oh, wait a minute. You think I'm getting too fat? Look, I'm the one pack. They paying to see me. They're not paying to see you. So they're like, okay, you can leave. So what happens when everybody leave? You leave, and the question becomes, well, who really wants each person? Because I'm about to be petty and say it out up front. I don't care which side has to deal with this. You know who is the most important person in a relationship when you see your ex in a relationship. If you single and they happy, and then you like, they ain't really happy though. They smiling, but you remember when I showed you the clip of the dude that was the side dude at Walmart,
Oh my gosh,
and he
yes,
was
he
like,
was
you
so
better
pissed off.
wave at me. It's that. Like we're gonna have these problems. So, oh man, about oh God, because ultimately, and this is what I remember when we was talking about marriage,
Mhm.
and I said, well, probably one of the issues is even with the raising of people, it's gone that far where the family doesn't pay for the wedding. The wife's family doesn't pay for the wedding.
Right.
So you want guys to have these. I need you to have your protective provider role, but also do the wife's family's role. And then when you put the husband and wife in a hole because the wife's family doesn't do it, it's kind of like, well, damn, like, so now if we struggling out the gate, it's my fault because I got to be man enough to make up for my wife's family's job.
Again, and I always go back to, babe, it's like all that could be alleviated if it boils down to communication. It all boils down to communicating. Because you'll find when you communicate that, man, I thought we have less in common than I thought. Like her values are not the same as mine, and we could run into some problems when we get ready to get married or in the relationship because she may have her spending habits may be a certain way or what have you. It's like,
That's the part. Like, cause I was like, God, we don't have a men and women are different with money. We're like that's the socializing part. I was like the
yeah,
Valentine's. Like we're expecting this. If we look at it, if I got a woman, I'm probably gonna be broke. That's how we look at it. I remember telling you that part. I was like, we're socialized. Hey, you got a woman? Hey, well, look here. It's gonna cost you. Dinner's gonna cost you. Date's gonna cost you. Breathing is gonna cost you. Sex is gonna cost you. Love is gonna cost you. You know, what if I want to have a baby? That's gonna cost you. But if you
and,
take the modern roles, I was like, ladies don't they get upset. They break down because they haven't thought about the cost of if you really want to be like a modern day man and a modern day woman and y'all splitting these things 50-50 down the middle, the idea that I gotta give like every 2 weeks I get paid and every 2 weeks I gotta give something to you. And you remember I was talking about the
and
dates?
hmm
I was like, that ain't gonna happen.
right.
Or the vacations.
What I'm thinking along the lines of, I'm thinking about people that may be single, that truly want to be in a committed relationship and they're willing to do what it takes to make that relationship successful. Not people running shenanigans or anything, that people that really want to be in true committed relationships and having really truthful conversations, even if they've messed up in the past and they're like, you know what, I'm not going to do this, that, and the other again once I find this person, or once, I'm just gonna, these are the things that I'm gonna do and carry out. Like, I know I've made some mistakes in the past, but I'm gonna correct this behavior when I'm with this person because I want a relationship. But then it comes from being honest about where a person's at. Like, marrying, I think like when you're in your 30s and 40s, I think dating experiences and relationships should quote unquote be different. I know that they're not in some cases, but they should.
Well,
And it's just like like I just said, I just know in my heart, I feel
in your
wholeheartedly
heart,
in my heart. I feel like if people communicate it more, particularly like I said, it goes back to men. I'm not blaming men, but again, you guys don't want to communicate with us because you don't want to deal with. That's what I was saying. The
the backlash.
backlash of like okay, oh, he thinks I'm this or that, like that may be your truth, and I'm just coming from a place where you come to me and you say something, it may hurt my feelings. I'm just saying, if I take it the wrong way,
Well,
if I take it the wrong way and I'm like, well, you know what, I'm not going to do this because you're like, I don't want to deal with the attitude like you're thinking I don't want to deal with the attitude all week, her huffing and puffing around the house because I told her that I need more help, I'm paying for everything in the house, and I just told her that we can't go on that trip in July. You know what I mean? And
mhm,
there's part of the honesty right there, baby. We can't go because I'm having to pay,
right.
it's just certain things. I know I'm going off in another direction, but it just stems down to communicating. Like I don't understand why it's such a big deal about, even if you deal with the backlash, so what? That's part of the relationship. If she can't handle that, and that's part of the growth of the person. I'm not
That's,
I mean, she made like, okay, he's serious about this, like he's communicating this with me.
you know what happened just now?
Hmm.
Something you said prior to that part sparked the thought of, it's, you can communicate with a person, but who are you communicating with?
I remember you telling me that. Remember you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because what you were saying, like when a person's going to change, they're not. If you're waiting for the right person to
Hmm.
start
Hmm.
your change ain't gonna happen, because your change should happen before you meet that person.
Right.
But
Exactly.
but I think what winds up happening is you're looking for a a ideal person or a situation at a particular point, and then you're gonna start your journey of being different, a new you or whatever that is. But the problem is, I'm not communicating with the you want to be. I'm communicating with the you are. So the person, the ideal person you want to be, may be able to take these conversations,
Mm.
but the
Okay.
person that you are at the moment will respond in an unhealthy way.
Got it.
I want the truth. It's kind of like I was telling you about when I take my son working out.
Hmm.
He is, I tell him he's doing something, and he can't. He's like, no, I'm not. But I had to stop him midway through and catch him right in that moment and be like, nah, did I tell you you was doing X, Y, Z? Now look at you. Look at this. And he's like, oh, I am doing that. Because the person, he is so comfortable doing that, he doesn't know it works. Hold on, man. As a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna get up out of here. We gotta get something to eat. Forget y'all. We love y'all though. Catch y'all in the next one. Peace.